everybody, welcome to another episode of Red Tool House. I'm really excited about this video series we're going to do. I want to introduce a buddy of mine. His name is Jeff Parsons. He's with West Virginia Land Group, and he is a forester. He is a timber guy. He is a guru, a jack of all trades. Does a lot of cool stuff out in the woods, and just excited to have him here. I know I promised you guys for a while about getting Jeff on here. I'm glad, excited to say that he's here. Welcome, Jeff.
Glad to be here.
Hey, buddy.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day about when we first met. We met Hurricane Katrina recovery, didn't we? Is that when we first started kind of hanging out? Yeah, we
went down to South Mississippi and did some helped do some cleanup work down there for the folks.
Yeah, I remember you had a chainsaw that I just absolutely coveted. That thing, it had an engine on about the size of my motorcycle engine at the time. That thing was
still
awesome.
Got it.
Do you still have it? What was that?
That's a Husqvarna 395 XP. It's a logging chainsaw. Loggers use that size, but no, you treat them right and they'll run forever. So yeah, we still use it. In fact, this time of year we're using it pretty hot and heavy on firewood. So
awesome. Yeah, when you whipped that thing out, I thought, does that come with a seat and a Kickstarter? I wasn't quite sure, but that thing was awesome. We cut those live oaks in Mississippi, those huge live oaks, and man, that thing was just cutting through it like it was a knife through hot butter.
It's pure power, awesome. And you got a sharp chain on there, you can do wonders. So
love it. All right, well, like I said, we're going to do a video series here, and we're going to dive into quite a few topics. So we'll bust this up over the course of some weeks and some video episodes, so you don't want to throw a 2-hour video at you, but Jeff is just a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of information when it comes to timber and it comes to forest management. So I'm going to try to pick his brain as much as I can while I got him here, but look forward to these videos in the future as we release them. But I think this is a good spot to start with is, what is the difference in your profession between a logger and a forester or a timber manager? You want to define those for me real quick?
Yes, and we get this question all the time from landowners in West Virginia and other states where we work, but most people have a pretty good conception of a logger. Loggers are the folks that, number one, they work extremely hard. It's a hard business. Cutting the timber, by that, felling the trees with chainsaws like the ones we were talking about. The big saws. Then they've got to pull that timber in a production capacity, from a wooded setting like this down to a staging area where it's bucked. The logs are cut up, the tree into merchantable product, sorted, some on the landing, and then loaded on a heavy truck. Generally a tractor trailer size truck or something a little bit smaller, and go to the destination point. So logging in itself, like I said, their equipment is generally obviously chainsaws, dozers, what we call skidders, rubber tired equipment that has cable winching on the back, or now they make them with big huge grapples that picks the trees up in their long form and pulls them down to the landing. And then down there they have loaders, and they have other accessory equipment to do that work. So there is a form of what we call mechanized logging in West Virginia, and obviously in other states and down south where they are totally mechanized. They don't even hardly use chainsaws. They use what's big equipment called feller bunchers that basically cut the whole tree, pick it up, and it's all mechanized. So that in a nutshell is the logging. Most loggers are independent contractors. Some purchase their own timber. Some will just pretty much exclusively cut on a contract basis for a sawmill. So you've got a mix of loggers in that dynamic. And like I said, most of them are good folks. They're hardworking. It's a tough and can be dangerous profession. That's why the loggers that we use in our capacity, we make sure that they're experienced, that they're good safety training, follow good safety protocol. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong out here when you're working, in that capacity. So that's logging in a nutshell. As foresters, of course, I'm a forester. We work with loggers in a capacity, just like in a different capacity. We work with landowners. So we're kind of I guess you could say, in a sense, we're kind of go-between between loggers and landowners. And we kind of grease the wheels and make things happen more smoothly there. So foresters in West Virginia and many other states, you have to be licensed. as a forester, similar to licensing for a surveyor, for other professional, obviously attorneys and accountants and stuff like that. But forestry is a college degree field, which can be a 2-year technical degree, it can be a 4-year degree, it can be a master's degree, or it can be a PhD degree. So most of the universities and colleges in forested states have forestry schools.
So by talking about the difference between a logger and a forester, you made a comment about a forester really represents the landowner more so than they represent the logger. So it's kind of safe to say that you have the landowner's best interest in mind because of obviously protections you want to put in place. They are your client more so than the logger is your client. So from a homesteader's perspective, why would what would you think would be the best application of a forester for a homesteader, someone that has land? Is there something just beyond cutting timber that a forester could bring to the table?
Sure. Yeah, we work with various clients, and a lot of our client base are homesteader, landowners, and some from, and they love their land and they love their forest, and not that other landowners don't, but as a rule, many homesteaders are more, that I've worked with, are more in tune to their forests. Basically, a lot of reasons because they just live there and they enjoy it every day, as opposed to another landowner that may not live on the property, or and they want that forest to be as enjoyable for them. They want it to be as usable as possible, as practical, and they want it to thrive as much as possible without destroying the integrity of obviously what's out there. So when that landowner wants to look at how to utilize and manage and improve their forest lands, and I'm going to refer to it as their hardwoods because predominantly that's what we have here, we help them bridge that gap. We provide them the market knowledge if they're when they need that kind of information, but we also provide them the management knowledge to what is best for their land if you do decide to do some select thinning and vegetation management in whatever capacity that you want. So we basically bridge that gap.
That's a big double trunk white oak, right, Jeff?
Yep. And that tree in particular would be more valuable from a wildlife habitat standpoint, from a acorn production standpoint. If you're tied into on an agricultural basis, some folks are taking the pigs out in the woods and that's letting them eat acorns and stuff, free range, and works out real good.
Absolutely.
Reeds and Bing, Troy, you got to, in these forks, you get what's called a double heart.
Yeah.
And by the time you get down to the double heart on this tree, you're probably about right here, which is, I'm almost 6 feet, so you're about 6.5 feet. And for a marketable white oak log product on that, you need at least 8.5 feet, 8 feet, and it was 6 inches of trim. But anyway, we'll use this tree as for the how we D-tape it. And basically, you always, as foresters, to always measure on the uphill side of the tree, because it will give you a difference, especially if you're on a steep slope. If you're measuring on the downhill side, you're not going to be at chest height. But here's 4.5 feet. And I might be able to. We like to think we can swing them without walking around them usually, but maybe not.
How big a boy are you?
Well, we get pretty good at it. We swing that thing, but we got a little sapling in the way. So anyway, it's got a little nail here, and
oh, I see.
Yeah, we just attach that. In this case, we'll just walk around. Bring it back, And now we know that the diameter of this white oak is 25.3 diameter inches. So that means if you cut that tree right here and measured across, you know, the girth of it right here, you're going to be right at 25.3 inches on average for that tree.
And why is diameter more important to know than circumference for?
Well, all the calculation formulas ever since they started calculating how to make a square product out of a round log is based on diameters and not circumference. So all the formulas that we use, which are all computerized now, but there's umpteen of them, but they're all based on those diameter inches as a starting point, and then I'm working heights off of it to do the calculations of volume.
As Jeff mentioned, if you're a homesteader and you want to figure out what you should do with a stand of trees, you know, forest area, whatever the case may be, it'd be worth looking into a forester, having that conversation, getting some dialogue going there, because not only we're just talking about cutting trees, obviously we're looking at managing trees. We're looking at what species maybe you want to let grow. Is that safe to say? What species maybe you want to maybe pull back on, depending on your goals?
Yeah, and maybe a better characterization is that, you know, generally a forester's expertise, you know, will help a landowner do whatever within reason, you know, practicality that they want to do for their property. I mean, in a natural way. It doesn't have to be market oriented. For example, if you know, we've had folks that called that just are looking to open a maple, you know, type tapping operation, and so in their case, for example, you know, they're not interested at all as far as marketing any forest products from a lumber or log standpoint, but they are interested in how to get those maples to thrive out there for their sugar making capacity. So so it doesn't have, you know, forest management doesn't have to be getting a log to a sawmill to make it, you know, enjoy, you know. So good foresters will sit down and listen to the landowner and exactly what the landowner has in mind, and then advise from there what's doable, what's practical, whether it's from a forest products, you know, conventional log or lumber standpoint or not. You know, a good forester will make whatever happen that you want on the property.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Jeff has really good information on his website. So if you want to find out more information about a forester or what Jeff does in particular, check out westvirginialandgroup.com. And you can find some information there. There's obviously ways to contact Jeff too if you have any questions. You're open to some questions from our viewers, wouldn't you be?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, feel free to use that conduit to communicate with Jeff. And like I said, keep an eye on the channel. We're going to post some videos going on here in the upcoming weeks as Jeff and I get into diving into some of the details of what forest management looks like and all those different options. All right. Take care, everybody.